We are back to the commentary. We are continuing with this broadcast. Games are entering the time pressure phase. We left it off on the Wang Hao game with Wang Hao sacrificing a pawn. He sacrificed his c-pawn in order to open up the position for his light square, in order to open up the diagonal for his light square bishop from a6, and to get a square for his knight from d7. So followed c4, d4, c3, takes on c3, knight b6, and now well bishop f2 was played in order to keep this bishop. And now I was saying that it was interesting to see how Wang Hao is going to continue to build up his initiative in this position, because he's famous as a very dynamic player, and he's for sure going to find some way to build up on his initiative, and I was curious how. So he played move d5 here. Interesting move, because on one hand he's fighting for light squares like c4, so he's preventing, let's say, move like d5. This is positive. But on the other hand, after a move like if I now play move like e5, this bishop on g7 is a dead piece. And it's going to be now out of play for some time, because he would need to play move e6, rook e8, bishop f8, and okay, then this bishop is going to be back. So maybe what he wants to do is, in the case of e5, to indeed play the game in a style of a French, and to play move e6, and then to try to play rook e8, bishop f8, and to get initiative on a queen side, because for the time being black does not need to worry about move like cb4, because there is always knight c4 tempo and knight b4 getting a pawn back. So black is going to remain only one pawn down. He is not at the risk of losing two pawns. So the question would be, is black's kingside initiative sufficient for the sacrifice pawn? Because also white would not be exactly sitting and watching. I assume that white is going at some stage also to push maybe h5 to try to get to a black king. Let's see what would happen here. Okay, something what happened in the game. Okay, indeed, white played e5. Okay, we have a move. e5 is most logical move, because if you play here with white, you really want to... One bishop is active. There is no need to allow black to get another active bishop, so you really want to close this piece. That's why e5 was played, and indeed Wang Hao played move e6. e6 is a multi-purpose move, like I said. Well, it's stopping f5, which would be, here if white could push f5, it would be very dangerous for black, because white would get a prime attack. But also move e6 is enabling black to play rook e8 and bishop f8, and to bring his bishop in action on the other side of the board. White is taking cb4, and now black has to get his pawn back, and this is what he does. He plays move knight c4. This is necessary. Now the question is, where is white going to go with his queen? Well, I would say for sure not to e1, because if he would go with the queen to e1, then after knight takes b4 would come with a tempi, because c2 would be hanging. So I think that he's thinking whether to go to c1 or c3, in order after knight takes, let's say knight takes b4, to kick this knight out with the a3 move. I think this is what he plans to do. But of course he has to be careful that this knight does not jump to a3, because knight on e2 is also hanging. This could be something quite unpleasant for white. I'm not sure if this c takes b4 was such a smart move. Of course, maybe white wants to play, let's say, queen to c1, and then after knight b4, maybe just to protect this piece, this knight, to play move, let's say, bishop f3, protecting this knight from this bishop on a6, and now this knight can no longer jump anywhere. And now next move, to play next move like a3, hitting the knight, because yeah, problem for black is that he cannot create any immediate tactics. Let's say black rook would have been on c8, then some different kind of tactics with knight c2, queen c2, knight e3 jump would then such a kind of tactics would transpire, but we don't, black does not have time for this, because let's say in the case of move like queen a5, and then move like a3 would come immediately, so black has no time to play move rook f8, and then to threaten motifs on c2, like for example a3. Let's suppose that rook was on c8, black. Then move knight c2 will work, because after queen c2 there would be move knight d2, hitting a bishop, and also with the rook on c8 will be hitting a queen. Maybe it's working anyway, maybe it's even working in this kind of situation, because I threaten to take a piece, and if I play move like bishop h5, bishop g4, sorry, there is move h5, and if I play move like king to g2, there is move rook c8, king has no squares. Because if knight moves, there is bishop f1 and knight takes f3. And if the another knight moves, then there is move knight f1, rook f1, let's say, bishop takes e2 and takes on c3, and white ends being exchanged down and becoming lost position. Queen cannot go to a2 because of bishop c4 tempi, and now when queen has to go back, and then bishop e2 again goes under pin and wins. So maybe Van Gaal can do it anyway. Actually, the pawn on b4 was not taken. Okay, now I understand why. If the game happened e5, moment, let me get the right move order, e5, so d5, e5, Van Gaal first played move knight to c4. Queen went to c1, e6, and now white did not take on b4, I think most probably due to the reasons I have just explained. So white played first move rook e1 to try to defend the knight, and now happened move h5. Van Gaal, what he wants to do, he needs stable queenside. He needs stable queenside in order to be able maybe to move his rook to e8 and to transfer his bishop to the queenside. So he wants stable kingside that no accidental attacks can happen. On the other hand, securing his kingside might cost him important tempo. Because, for example, he could have also played move like queen a5. Trying not to waste any time and trying as soon as possible to put rook into play on c8, creating all sorts of tactical motifs. It is interesting that he didn't do this. So he played h5. White is thinking what to do. Of course, the crucial question is, can white simply take on b4 and after knight b4 play a6 and try to kick this knight out? This is a, let's see whether it's possible. Let's say c takes b4. Okay, knight has to take. Well, rook can also take, but taking with knight looks more logical to me. And a3, this knight has to be kicked out. Now, Are there any tactics? Well, not that I see. So I think that knight has to go back to c6. But then I think that it would have been more beneficial for black to, for example, have this position, queen a5, cb4, knight b4, a3, and let's say knight back, knight to c6, because now my rook, yes, I have now allowed white to push his pawns, but on the other hand my rook would come to c8, but maybe Van Gaal did not like, maybe he did not like g4. Because now threat is f5. If f5 would come, this can become a bad news very quickly, so he would maybe need to open a center. f5, if situation gets closed, then it's not so bad, but okay, situation probably gets open. And now question is, how is this position? I think that black has a compensation, because some moves to target e6 are not really possible, because black has here a threat. Like, for example, to try to push one of the pawns is probably not working, because black wants to take on d4. Let's say h5, I want to take. Because this cannot be taken, because rook on e1 is hanging. There is queen on a5, hitting the rook. So I don't know why did Van Gaal play this careful move h5, which of course does stabilize the king side, but he does lose time. He does lose time, which could be very important. This game might be decided simply by the time, because time is factor here in this game, and there are many options. I see, for example, also some tactical ideas. For example, I can take, knight takes, push, knight goes back, let's say f5 anyway. Then if he takes with the pawn like this, then h5 would be weak, and if e pawn takes, well, there is maybe a move like knight c3, hitting a pawn on d5, knight has to go to e7, knight f4. Now all out of sudden white is having a threats of his own, and in the case of, let's say, bishop moves, queen goes, bishop pair would probably have to be given, but then white would play queen f3, continuing his initiative. It is not clear to me at all that it was that this h5 move was necessary, or that it was the best. But okay, we'll find out how it develops. Van Gaal is a fantastic player, and he certainly had his reasons to take such a kind of decision. His opponent still seems to be thinking about what to do. I'm going to try to refresh something to see if we have a move. No, we don't have a move. His opponent is thinking what to do. Okay. Let me see if anything happened in a game of Salem. This was a game which we were busy with while we are waiting for for opponent of Wang Hao to take his decision. But I really think in this position of Wang Hao that he has to be careful with f5 break. Because when f5 break comes, if e pawn takes, d5 is always a weakness, and if the other pawn takes, there is this pawn on g4 which should be hanging. So many things can happen here in this game. Even some ideas, let's say, what I was giving to take on b4, knight b4, and let's say move knight c3 maybe first, because then I can hit this knight with a3 anytime I like. We will see how the game develops, but this move h5 can turn out to be a very important moment of the game. Okay, let us get back to the game of Sala, which we were busy with. Okay, we have left the game at the move h4, and I was basically saying that with the king now close to e7 and king being able to control the 7th rank, that now most probably black can afford to go into the rook ending, since white rook can no longer enter the 7th rank. Now this is exactly what black does. So now we have the situation of a very few pieces on a board. It is obvious that white is better. Of course white is better because he gets more space. White has more space, his pawns are more advanced, and his rook is also more active. Different kind of pawn ending calculations are going to be very important here, because at some stage a move like rook c8 can happen, and then a pawn structure calculation is going to be very then a pawn ending calculation is going to be very important, because white would have more space and more active king, but it can easily happen that because black has no weaknesses and position is so symmetric, that white would not be able to make any decent progress. So okay, king b7. My judgment of the position is that even though white is better, that it is not enough to win. But maybe it will turn out to be different. Let's find out. Check. Now again, interesting moment for black. For example, this check is a clever move, because let's suppose that white has played move h5. Then black can play move rook c8. And now white has a problem, because if he changes rooks, this pawn ending looks like a draw. And if white plays move like rook d4, king moves to e7 now, and black gets a counterplay with his own rook to c2. And if white tries to improve his king, then black again has a possibility of entering to c1 and having active rook, while if white plays move like king d2, then black has a possibility to simply enter into pawn ending, which is going to be a draw. Why is rook d4 clever move? Check. It is clever move because if king goes to e7 trying to do exactly the same thing, well then actually white has a possibility of maybe playing some move like rook to either a4 or rook to b4, trying to target the weakness. Though either way, I find it somehow difficult to believe that this can be potentially enough for more than a draw. There are some ideas, maybe let's say rook, and then if a6, to maybe try to play then maybe to try to make this tempo back, king back, and now maybe king up, because now this pawn is compromised. So then perhaps pawn ending is not a total draw anymore. I don't know. Though it should be. Because how to make a break? Well, it should be. No, I would be very surprised if White manages to win this. Okay, let me see. Rook d4. Okay, black has gone with a king to c7, which also can be played. In this position, sometimes in this type of position, it is difficult to calculate. The player has to somehow trust his feeling where to go with the king. My genuine feeling tells me to place king to e7. Had I played the game myself, but black is placing king to c7. We would find out how this ends. Let's see. And also let's see whether they made some more moves. Yes, let's see if they made some more moves. Okay, so okay, second king c7. Now happened h5. The drawback of king on c7 is that it cannot create immediate counterplay, because, like for example, with king on e7, well, white will be forced to continue his action, because otherwise black plays rook c8 and has a threat. With king on c7, there is no such a threat. Because even if rook comes to d8, when I move my rook, this rook cannot enter anywhere. So now white has a possibility to try to take even more space. Okay, at some stage, if white gets far enough, taking his space, then maybe this ending would not turn out to be a draw after all. Rook e8. I'm not sure this to be the best move. Okay, the idea can be, of course, to push e5, but if pawn e5 is pushed, I can always give a check and then maybe play f5. And if I play f5, then I would have some move like rook g4, and pawn could be hanging. But okay, the idea behind is to play move e5 to try to do something active. Now let's see what happens. So it happens check, because white is trying to win some time. So white is running away from this e5 hit, king, and now another move trying to send the king back. So now actually white would always have this possibility to give a check, and for black it is not so easy to find a quick counterplay. So g4, f6. It's interesting that black now changes his mind regarding the idea to push his pawn. And favors move like f6, which is more passive. I think that black has to actually start being careful, because I'm not yet sure how to no, maybe it still doesn't matter. It is so difficult to make a progress. So few pieces left. Maybe if time pressure gets involved. I don't know if time, but no, black has 20 minutes, white has 35. We would see if let's go back to game of Van Gaal, because I see that something happened there. We get some developments. This game, let me update it. Okay. Okay, game of Van Gaal. We have left after move h5. And I have observed that this move h5 can turn out to be important loss of time. So, okay, white takes on b4 because white wants to have a clear picture on the king side. Knight takes, and a3, he hits this piece back. Knight goes back to c6, and white plays knight e3. So with the move knight e3, white is more or less, at least for the time being, abandoning the ideas of f5, because this knight, let's say, had white plays move like knight c6, then ideas with f5 would be more apparent, because the square on d5 would be hit. But on the other hand, white logic behind this, I guess, that white logic behind this that he is a pawn up and he wants to trade pieces off. Though this pawn is not a big pawn, it is pawn which is somehow would become a weak pawn on c2, so this is not really a big issue. Okay, queen a5, creating, I think, some knight jumps to d2 and tactics. So now again, had Van Gaal played queen a5 instead of h5, well, this queen already would have been there, and maybe now he would have been, and maybe now he would have, and maybe now he would have been able to do something else, because now white is to move and he takes. On c4 bishop takes. Maybe white would play move queen e3, rook c1, bishop e1, something like this. No, he plays move bishop f1. White would try to somehow reorganize his pieces. I guess that a move like future queen e3, rook moves, bishop e1 is on the cards, because but black would need, I think that this bishop from g7 would need to get to f8. Okay, Wang is thinking what to do. All right. Then, okay, game between Vidit and Gopal has finished. This game is drawn, finished as a draw. Let's see. I think that we had an interesting game played by Ganguly, Indian grandmaster, strong Indian grandmaster, who is also one of the potential tournament favorites here. He's playing with white against Barnaure, Vlad Victor. This is, I think, Grandmaster from Romania. And they are playing accelerated dragon. Why is this dragon accelerated? It's accelerated because black pawn is still on d7 instead of d6 like in a regular dragon. Why the black players do this? The black players do this for a simple reason that in a regular dragon, a lot of black players do not like the following variation. Let's suppose the pawn was on d6 now, because it will be the regular dragon move order. Queen d2, castles, and castles. This is what black players mostly do not like, who are playing accelerated dragon, because now the best move is d5. And some of black players, they do not like this variation. So by keeping pawn on d7, white does not have such a kind of option, because now, for example, black can castle, and if white plays move like queen to d2, then black can play d5, and we have the same position, but black played d5 in one go, so white king is still on e1. So therefore, white players, they need to play move bishop c4 in order to prevent it. So bishop c4, castles, bishop e3. This is, I think, one of the most known lines of accelerated dragon. And now black plays move d5, which is, I'm not sure what is the evaluation of this move. I think it's dubious move. There is move d6, which has been played by a number of strong players. There is also another idea in this position. This is some move which looks a bit funny, maybe some move like a5, with the idea on castle to play a4, and then on knight a4 to take knight e4. I'm not sure about this swap. Many strong players with black have done it. I don't think it's particularly clever, because b6 square will remain weak. White can play. White normally develops with playing c4 and knight to b5, and white gets really some sizable pressure. While for a black, it is not so simple to move his pawns. Let's say to take advantage that white e4 pawn is gone. But okay, this is a different story. In this game, black plays move d5. This typical dragon move, and but in this case, this is not a regular position, so this would lead to different consequences. So he takes d5, knight a5. Well, black wants to take white bishop in order to get some compensation for his sacrificed material. Queen f3, bishop g4, a bit funny move. Queen g3, and bishop h5. When I was watching the opening of this game, I just passed by at this position. I was in a playing hall, and I kind of thought, very strange. It must be a dragon, but how on earth did this bishop appear on h5, which is not a typical square for a dragon light square bishop? So this is the way how it got there. And I do not think it's particularly good, because I do not see any future for this bishop on h5. White plays d6, a clever move, because black wants to play knight b3, a b3 to take on d5. So white is saying, okay, if I'm going to have to give back my pawn, I am first going to damage the black pawn structure before this pawn is going to be taken. So d6, e d6, castles. Black has rather unpleasant situation, because it is, the difference of activity between bishop on b3 and bishop on h5 is obvious. So bishop on b3 is excellent piece, and it would need to be taken. But on the other hand, once this bishop is taken. What black does. Now simply white has advantage in having much better pawn structure. Because d6 pawn is weak, white is having fantastic outpost on d4, and black would need to do something with this bishop on h5. This bishop cannot stay on h5 forever, because it is very unnatural square, and at some stage white might also threaten h6, h3, queen moves on g4, taking this piece. Here was also an interesting moment, because I think that Ganguly is taking knight b3 with the idea to put his bishop to d4. Otherwise I cannot imagine why. Because second option was ab3, which also looks tempting, opening the file for rook of a1 and improving the pawn structure, because in this particular situation, due to open a file, actually those double pawns are not bad at all. But I think that d4 square is playing the role here. Rook e8, yeah, bishop d4, yes. And bishop e2, so maybe, I don't know, perhaps white could have also considered a move like rook e1 and then bishop d4 in order to make it more difficult for black to do something with this lousy piece. But then maybe black could play bishop g4 and then retreat the bishop to the normal world. So we move bishop d4. White is more or less forcing bishop e2, because bishop now cannot go to g4 because of bishop f6 and queen g4 winning the piece. So bishop e2, knight e2, rook e2. So now we have okay, black did manage to get rid of his bishop, but on the other hand, white is having stable advantage in terms of having better pawn structure. White is simply having better pawn structure. Pawn on d6 is weak. And this game is going to be played for a long time only on two results. Either white wins or black makes a draw. And well, to get this kind of prospects for black, this is not a reason why people play dragon. Queen d3, rook e6, f4. Interesting move by white. So white does not, let's say, want to start regrouping and being busy focused only on this pawn, which he could have done. For example, he could have, if he wanted to move this bishop, maybe to c3 and then play rook d1 and jump knight d4, hitting the rook, and focus on this d6 weakness. No, white is trying to combine this d6 weakness with potential attack on a king, because f5 will now come and f file is going to be open, so white is actually hoping to combine two types of play. The only negative is that moves f4 surrenders e4 square. But I do not see at this particular moment how can black make a practical use of it. So knight e8, f5. White is really going for a kill, attacking the king. So now actually as a consequence of this f4, f5 plan, which is, I think it turns out to be a very clever decision by Ganguly, a white position improved further, because now it is not only that black has to worry about his potential pawn weakness, pawn structure weakness, a weak pawn on d6. No, here actually black also has to very urgently worry about his king, which is coming under direct attack. So rook e5 is probably, no, he plays rook f6, I guess a rook e5, but he didn't like a f5 double. Let's say some simple chess like rook f3, another rook to f1, threatening to take on a g6, developing some massive attacks. So rook f6, but now rook f6 is very passive piece. I don't know, maybe even some moves like rook e1, taking a file, and maybe even later some moves like g4 can come into consideration. White is having massive advantage here. Rook f2, okay, knight g7, rook f1. Yes, black actually now has to worry about direct threat. This is f takes g7, because f takes g6, because then if rook would take on f2, there is intermezzo move check on h7 and taking on f2. And if not, if black takes on f5, well then white takes back, and then black pawn structure is going to deteriorate even further. Move like G5 is option, but this is not really a move which you play out of joy. So black takes Gf5, and now the other black situation is that, look, black pawn structure actually has deteriorated even further, because now not only pawn on d6 is weak, we're also having weaknesses on f7 and h7, and black king is open. Black is now trying to exchange some pieces in order to diminish white attacking potential. Okay, white attacking potential has partly diminished, but black probably may consider himself lucky if he turns just being a pawn down in some sort of rook ending and hoping to save. Queen b6 check, rook f2, queen takes b2, okay. This was a clever decision by black, because now if he doesn't get mated, he has very good chances to survive and make a draw. King h8. Why did white allow this? Because it was not necessary. White had many possibilities here. Okay, rook f2, knight moves. Maybe even move g4 could have been considered. Why not? Why the Abdullah didn't play g4? Because such a kind of transaction is, I think, not bad for white at all. I want king h1 and rook g1. White has more space, so it would be logical that if somebody can get under attack, it should be black and not vice versa. Black would probably have to play some move like rook h6 and try to play knight h5, king h8 to control some dark squares. But I don't know, this transaction which was done, if it was so great, because yes, black king is now very weak, but there are many checks, so it would be extremely difficult to lift a rook. I don't see how to lift a rook. And on the other hand, if queens get off the board, probably white would manage to black would escape with a draw, because the only thing which black needs to do is to swap. If queen gets off the board, the only thing which black needs to do is to trade his 3 pawns for white 2, and to reach 2 versus 1 ending, which would be easy draws. So let's see here. I see on another screen that some moves were made. Okay, white played move h3, which is logical, because white wants to improve his king in order to liberate his rook, to be able to attack black. And on h3, happened rook g8, alright. Black is activating his rook, rook e2, queen d4 check, king h2. Okay, white would like to play a move like rook e7, obviously, hitting all the black weak pawns. So black plays move queen h4. Let me understand what is going on. So white probably cannot take, okay, white cannot take on b7 because black is going to have checks. Queen f4, and white cannot escape perpetual check. King g1, queen check, and perpetual check and the draw. Okay, if white does not want to make a draw, how to improve his position? Because to improve a rook would be something unbelievably stupid, because it would blunder mating 2. Queen g3 and queen g2 mate. But if queen cannot move because of perpetual check, and rook cannot move because of mating threat, then I am not so sure that white can get something done. Maybe queen d5 would be a good move. Maybe if he wants to continue to fight, maybe move like queen d5 to try to centralize a queen. This is maybe a clever move. because then if black queen, let's say, goes to g3, and I move my king, then I threaten also some checks on d4, which could be unpleasant. Maybe queen d5, just to centralize a piece. Another option is maybe move c4, to try to advance those pawns and then to see further what to do. But I don't know, black king is weak, but game is starting to look very drawish. Okay, let me see if with Van Gaal something happened with Van Gaal and Salem, because you were following those games. Yes, something happened. Okay, I'm going to download the current state of affairs, so then we can move to those games. Okay, Van Gaal. We have left position after bishop f1, and I was saying that bishop from g7 has urgently to arrive to f8, a3 diagonal in order to create some counterplay. Well, Van Gaal defies my opinion. He doesn't think so. He's first going to improve his knight. Okay, so he wants to jump with the knight to f5 and then to play rook fc8, and then he can take bishop e2 and rook c3 and to have a complete bind on a white position. Okay, rook d1 and now rook fc8. So he's finding a better way to regroup his pieces, because now bishop can also move to f8, knight would go to f5, white pawn on c2 is not relevant here. I think in this position that black is better. This pawn is really not that important. So black is better here. Black is the side trying to win. Maybe white made a mistake by thinking that by trading those knights that he would become safer. I don't think so. I don't think that he became safer, because actually black is simply going to target white c2 pawn. And if black rook appears to c2, it could be very bad news for white. Let me see. So queen d2. Of course, black does not want to change queens. He plays move queen a6 and c3. Okay, so now this pawn is going to be defended, but probably now some other problems would transpire. Like, for example, black can consider move knight f5 to improve the knight, bishop f8. I cannot help it, I keep advising this bishop to get to f8, a3 diagonal. And for black it would be extremely good if he can double his rooks, because then he would keep on threatening move like rook b2 and white could get in a serious problem. But okay, nothing is happening yet here. And time is... okay, white has considerably more time. This can play a role in this game. White has almost 20 minutes, black has only 8 minutes at this moment. Now let's go to Salem game. Let's see how is this ending developing. Whether the best UAE player managed to create more than just the pressure, whether from this pressure he managed to create a real winning chances. Okay, we have some developments here. Okay, this is interesting. So f6, I was saying that, well, black is trying to push e5 in order to create some kind of play, but that black, of course, has to be careful, because white is having much more space. And let's suppose if white would manage, let's say, just for argument's sake, if white would manage, let's say, to get with his king to g6, well, then game would be perhaps even over, because white pawn from h5 can just queen there. Let's see, so Salem plays king f3, he wants to activate his king. It happens move e5. Okay, dream scenario for black would be white would, let's say, play move f5. Why would this be dream scenario? Because then white king cannot come to g6, so white cannot target black weak pawns. But white doesn't want to do this. He's playing move g5, which is, I think, a good move. Because this is tricky. Maybe white is going to lose this game. Because here, time is... white is having king f3, e5, g5. White is having 9 minutes to finish the game, black is having 23 minutes. This can also play a role, because I think that what black would like to get is something like this. Let's suppose that white takes on f4, then black would, let's say, probably take on h6. White takes back, because rook cannot take, because then it would be disastrous effect. King would go, and when rook goes back, I think that I would just go with my king. Yes, I would go with my king, and if pawn takes, I would go further. I would collect this pawn, and it would become a bad news. Aha, moment, but maybe I'm blundering something. If I go with the king, there is going to be check. So I shouldn't do this, because then if king moves, there is another check. No, I can do this. King moves, check, king goes to h7, yes. And then if pawn takes, I take with the king, and then somehow white will manage to improve his rook, and pawn is very far. No, white has some winning chances here. This is not so simple. So black probably has to take on g5, but what happens then? Black takes on g5, white takes. Now, how to play, because maybe the rook has to give check, because if pawn takes, I can perhaps play move rook to g4, and then if rook check, I move my king. So I want to take with the rook and to keep black rook passive. And if rook moves, I can play maybe e4, and then I want to take next move. Second option would be to move my king, but then rook would enter. Of course, king e4 also is a move, not to be underestimated, because then if pawn takes, I take a pawn. And now let's say I want to play rook g4 and rook g5 and simply be a pawn up. And if rook goes to hit my pawn, we would get into no, this is not good for me, because it will be some pawn race, but probably black could do okay. So I'm probably better off to play move rook g4. To play move king g3 and rook g4. Let's see whether they made any moves in this position. It will be interesting to see it. Here. Okay. Aha, something different has happened to this position of Salem. So it happened g5. Yes. g5. And black reacted a bit differently. On g5, black took on f4. And Salem played indeed what I said. He took with the pawn. Black took with the pawn. And now it's an interesting moment, because move like rook f4 is also playable, but then rook e5 would be a problem. Okay, so activating a king would also run into rook e5, so white takes. Okay, what white wants is, I think, quite obvious. White would like to play move king g4 and to run with the king to f5 and eat all those pawns and win the game. So I think black would have to push f5. Moment. Yes, black pushes f5. Now white has to Uh, for white it will be very good to play move rook g6. Problem is that this move is illegal. So maybe white can cut the black king off. This is maybe not so stupid to cut the king off. Because as long as black king stays on this side of the board, if white manages to collect one of those pawns here, then the game is almost finished. But how to collect those pawns? Maybe to play rook b5 and then on rook f8 to play a move like rook e5, but then king goes to d6, then I can travel with my king. I do not see what is sound play here. He played rook b5. Yes, this makes perfect sense. Because of rook f8, I'm going to play move rook e5, king d6, king e3, king d4, and then I would be having a dominant rook and dominant king. And then maybe it is not a complete draw. Rook f8, played. Okay, he moves first king, it doesn't matter. Because white is having dominant rook, and now he wants to make a dominant king. Okay, black plays b6, black plays b6, in order to be able to run with his king. So now, for example, if white wants to, he can keep black king and bay. White can, for example, play move rook d5, to cut king on c7 and to enter king d4, and then to push his pawn to b5, to take squares even further, and then to enter king e5, king e6, and white is going to win this game. Look, rook d5, for example, rook king goes to d4, and now white's plan is very simple. White wants to play b4, b5, push king to c7, then enter king e5, king e6, collect f5 pawn, and the game is finished. Okay, let's see what happens. b6, no moves yet. Moment. Let's see whether I have any moves. Rook d5 looks like maybe I'm missing something, but rook d5 looks like a logical move, because maybe there is one trick, because what I was saying rook d5, maybe there is a problem. King moves, king in. Now, for example, move rook to f6, which is a tricky move, because if I now play b5, no, I'm winning. b5, rook, I win a pawn ending. b5, I'm just in time. King goes and king e5 wins, because f5 follow pawn and the game would be over. So then why not? Why is white hesitating? Rook d5 is logical move to cut the king off. Because the problem is that if black kings, let's say if white is hesitant and plays such a move, let's suppose, and black king comes to d6, well, now the problem is that white has a dominant rook, but how to get a passage with the king? This could turn out to be the problem, because even if I push my pawn to b5, it would be hard to out-tempi king, because he would refuse to go away, because black is having moves rook f7, rook f8. But then I would have a move rook e8. Maybe this is also a possibility. Maybe this is also a winning possibility. I don't know. I would prefer rook d5, but here black also can run out of moves. This situation is now for black very tricky. Black can lose this game. Or white can win, whatever you wish. Let's see, do you have some moves here? White made a move. Yes, rook d5, of course. King c6. Moment. Yes, king c6 played. King d4. Yes, I think that black is going to win this. Rook f7, because white rook is dominating black rook, and white king is dominating black king. Rook b7, and now let's see if there was a pawn push. Rook f7, yes, b4, because I want... I want to kick the king out. If b5 now comes, then king e5 is coming and game is over. b5, so black is stopping this, but it doesn't help. Now different problems would arrive. Rook c5 check, yes. Now rook is safe and defended. Black has to play king b6, otherwise he would lose a pawn, and now my king can safely run, and white is winning this game. White is thinking what to do, but moment, what can be wrong? King e5 looks like winning, because this king is now completely passive, completely cut off, and rook is cut off. My king is going to come to e6, and I'm going to take both pawns. Black can maybe even manage with the rook to take one of white pawns, maybe even the second one, but this pawn race, white should be big favorite in this pawn race. Maybe white doesn't like rook e5, sorry, king e5, rook e7 is only move, king takes f5, rook e3. Maybe white is worried about this pawn race, but I think that he should not be, because king g6, rook takes pawn, f5, maybe a5. No, but a5 I push f6, so maybe first check, goes, 5, f6, rook, king g6, pawn takes, rook f5. Aha, if I play now rook f5, I have a problem. Rook f5, king f5, b3, f7, b2, queen, queen, and it's a draw. Ah, maybe it's better to stay away from this. We have a move. Here, moment, we have to go back. Okay, so white does not want to go for a pawn race. White is playing move rook e5. Okay, so white actually wants to win a game without any risk, which is a clever thing to do if possible to achieve. Because now black has a problem. Because if he gives check, white has moved rook d5. And then pawn ending is lost. And if rook moves to keep on defending pawns, then I can give check. King has to go down, and then h6 would fall, and then everything would fall. So actually black is in a bad shape. I think that something which was difficult to expect has happened. With excellent technique, white is simply going to win this game. I think that black's problem started when he played move king c7, because black has stayed passive for too long, and I think that's why he's going to lose this game. Need to check it. Okay, we have this update, this software. Also, black has, next to all this trouble, black has dropped to 2 minutes, which doesn't really help. Okay, it seems like the game has finished. Okay, Salem got in, he won.
Okay, I don't know what to say.
No, I just have one question.
Why not king e5?
No. Was king c7 a mistake?
Probably. I think king e7 was.
Yes, because I was saying that his troubles started when he played king c7, because he stayed too passive too long.
Yeah, but I mean, okay, I had few ideas after king e7, but I think it's completely draw. After king c7, it was some real chances, I think.
Okay, so I was right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe.
No, because his problem was that when king is on c7, that he gives you extra time.
Yeah.
Moment, we lost connection. No, he gives you extra time, and once you have pushed all those pawns, it's probably winning, or anyhow it is extremely
No,
close,
my idea
close
was,
to winning.
for example, after king e7, it's just to, but I don't think it's anything real.
Here, this was a crucial moment.
I mean, yeah, this position.
This was a crucial moment.
Yeah, when he okay, king e7, my idea was to play rook b4, just to provoke some.
Yes, this is what I was saying. I was saying rook b4 or rook a4.
And then I can repeat moves and then push h5, for example. I mean, I can play rook c4, for example, king d7. Okay, first of all.
Wait. Yes. Okay, king d7.
Yeah, I was not sure. Maybe rook d4 and then rook a4, but or h5. I thought. Well, one of those.
h5, rook c8.
Rook c8. What was the idea? No. Sorry. No, I keep my rook. Maybe on b4 and play h5.
h5.
Yes, and
then again a rook c8.
Let me remember what. No. My rook should be on c4. Yeah, my rook should be on c4 and I play h5. But okay, yeah, this was my idea actually. Rook c4, king d7, h5, rook c8, king d3. But okay, I can.
This is what I was saying, that you can only chance to win it is if there's a miracle.
I get my pawn on e5. Let's say if I can get. No, I think it's.
Yes, because the pawn ending would be draw. Well, in principle, the problems, I think that, dropping the advantage started with the queen c2 move.
No, queen c2, yeah, I mixed up.
Yes, you mixed the line, that's what I was telling. Yeah. Because after queen c2...
a3 I should have played, yeah, or something.
Or even castle.
Uh-huh.
Castle, for example, knight c5, knight b5 is even an option. Even move to consider is c6.
c6, yeah, I thought c6 maybe was interesting. But I was trying to remember not to calculate, that's why I just...
No, the basic problem of a move queen c2 is, of course, everybody understands that white is better, but too many pieces get traded.
No, can you go back? Because I think if you would play instead of... Okay, knight d6 was not so good, of course. I think if you would play rook c7 instead. Okay.
You're having some connection problems. You got them now. Sort it out for some minutes at least.
Yeah. I mean, rook c7.
Yeah.
Finish the game.
Yeah, this was also some problem which I was thinking of, that somehow it is...
Okay, but there is one interesting moment, which is very strange. Instead of, okay, what he played, king knight b6, okay, I don't like this move.
c1, king move,
yeah,
f4.
f4, I was hoping for some move like g5, then I think he's lost directly, can you believe?
Directly?
Yes, I take, okay, let's see this is interesting.
Take, yes, take, back.
Bishop d3. Okay, should take, and rook c8. Bishop e4. Take.
Yes.
Take. Only move is knight c4, I believe. Because, okay, knight d5, which looks very logical.
No, knight d5 I believe is that his pawn ending is lost, yeah?
No, I play king d3, you cannot keep the b7 pawn. So I want
Okay.
c4 and they want bishop d5. So knight c4 is only move because... not only move, okay, if you play knight a4, I take on b7 and I think I am better.
Yes, okay, knight
So
c4.
knight c4 was the question. But in this moment, okay,
You take,
I take
and you play bishop a6,
bishop
and
a6.
knight never gets out.
Bishop a6, king e7, and then somehow h3, g3, h4,
Yes.
and then I go for the knight.
Yes,
But I couldn't do it directly because with the pawn on f2, pawn on g7, h6,
yeah.
he's coming to c6 and knight b5, and it's draw. But okay, this was a trick. Maybe he plays.
This is interesting moment. Now, since
Of course, c5 is a very stupid move.
so now since you are anyway here, let's see how is Van Gaal doing. Maybe
He finished. He won.
He won.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see how did he win this position. Let's see, Van Gaal won. Okay. Moment when we left Van Gaal, anyway when I left, was this position, and I was saying if he can double the rooks, so he does double the rooks. No, it was this position, yes, I was suggesting him to bring bishop to bring bishop to f8 or to double the rooks. I'm saying that white is in a serious problems. So what happened in the game is that, let's go quickly through it. Bishop f8, knight c1 trying to cover the b3 square, bishop takes, rook takes, queen c4. Now total control over white squares. Knight e3, knight f5, and now comes the rook double.
Okay, first of all, we want to take the pawn, yeah?
Yes, I want to take a pawn, so probably bishop e1 came. No, a4 because both pawns, okay, he's hoping...
Bishop e1, there's knight... No, knight e4 does not work. Maybe it works, I don't know.
Well, maybe also just take...
a3 is hanging over.
Yeah, so now he's hoping to trade all the pieces, but he doesn't have such a luck. And now taking.
He protects c1.
Yes,
square.
total domination.
Yeah, no. Maybe white need to play a5 to make
So, queen b3, let me try to find this Van Gaal game because he probably didn't resign here, probably few more moves happened. The opposition is in a shape that you don't need to lose and sleep if you resign this. Actually, he resigned it here, yeah. White resigned because rook c2 is coming, a4 is falling, everything is falling, and white had enough. Okay. Yeah.
And the funny thing, Van Gaal came, at some point he came to my game and he was smiling that I'm trying to win this position.
Okay. Well, now we're also smiling given the outcome.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Okay, let's try to wrap up the situation. We are having some connection problems which are persisting. They are not going away. And okay, let's go quickly through the positions, just to try to wrap it up because our connectivity problems are not disappearing. So okay, this is game between Kartikeyan against Kuzubov. Kuzubov is rating favorite. But this position does not favor him, so he's probably going to get mated. Difficult to imagine any other result here, because this king is in the middle, e5 is going to fall, rook is pinned, so probably just one result is possible here. Then let's see if we have some games which are maybe more interesting. Okay. Yefimenko, there was a problem. The transmission stopped after 6 moves, so I do not see the moves. I have no idea what position is. Horvat Petrosyan. Okay, transmission stopped after 6 moves, so we cannot do much with this game. Gupta Paligras. Okay. Interesting, Gupta Paligras. Look, exactly same opening like in a Salem game. But Gupta played castle, because Salem here took dc5. And what do we have now? White is slightly better because of his bishop. And now better rook ending. Pawn up. No longer pawn up, but passed a pawn. Black has to be careful not to blunder a stupid trick, because this move will cause probably 1 week of a lost sleep after a move like rook d8. So king moves. And now white protects. Okay, white. If black doesn't manage to create something very fast, white would have winning chances. Rook d3. Okay, changing queens. Rook is very active. Rook c4. Okay, it would have been better for black if there were 3 versus 3 or something like this. White would need at some moment to abandon one of his pawns and to run. I think that white has very good winning chances here. Yes, because white would play e4, he would move his king. At some moment would be check, king would go up. White would need to give pawn and to go for a race. Also maybe to take and to play g4, because then when and to play e4, because then when f2 pawn is given, if there is no automatic. For me it's not easy to basically judge is it well, big winning chances or kind of almost draw or a sure draw. Never easy those positions. Not for me anyway, maybe for some people it is. Okay, game of Pashikian. Yes, white was in general better in this game, because white is having very good pawn center. And black is having problems with pawn structure and open king. Black wants to be active. But it will not be easy. This bishop on b3 is a monster. Okay, bishop c2. Why? Aha, because maybe bishop e4 and bishop become active and rook g8. Okay, so white wants to make a draw. Maybe also part of respect is playing a role. Okay, so it seems like this game would be drawn. Ganguly. Yes, this game we are following. Let's see how far did Ganguly get with did he manage to create any real winning chances? Is he going to manage to win this game or? Okay, this is where we left the game. So he plays. I was suggesting some queen d5 or c4, some improvement of the position. He plays king h1. Okay, so he's running away from checks. Queen g5, again holding queen, so if queen moves it would be perpetual. Queen f2. Okay, trying to improve queen, to have this idea of queen d4 and to target some pawns. b6, check. Okay, he managed to get a pawn. King. Now the situation is improving for Ganguly. I'm not sure if black had to give this pawn. 6, c3. Okay, I think that white is going to win this game, because black king is more open. White might even consider some moves like g4. I think it would not be stupid, because moves like g4 would liberate rook. At least another move would be to give some simple check and to play queen e4. I think that g4 is move to be considered. At least I would consider it, right? Okay, Neverov made a draw with Burmakin, Bahara made a draw with Yerachescu, Istotescu beat Grover, Xiam lost to Wang. Okay, let's see the game between Sunivdut, Lina and Areshenko Alexander. Areshenko Alexander is having almost 300 elo points more than his opponent, so he's probably hoping for a quick kill. There was a Grunfeld. How did he win a pawn? Okay. Aha, so the d4 move, white is a little bit asking for the trouble. Going for some tactical solutions, and he gets the trouble because he loses a pawn. Now some compensation. I don't believe it, because f4 wants to prevent e5. But now bishop is lost. Okay, some inventive play to try to catch the knight, but this is not going to work. Two pawns. Okay, rook f7. Ah, this is interesting motive. But now rook comes. Rook f5. There is no perpetual. Okay, interesting moment was actually, I think the crucial moment was here in the game, when h6 was played, because if knight would take on f7, then probably Areshenko would do something very simple. He would just, I think, trade the rooks off and he would win the game, because rook, bishop, he's a pawn up and he would have a technical win. White is opting for ingenious defense, giving a check, king moves, and rook h3, because now the point is, if knight is taken, then white has a move like rook h7, and he would give perpetual check, rook g7, rook h7. But black has excellent move in move rook g5, because now rook h6 is impossible due to simple rook g5 check, fg5, and king takes rook. So unfortunately for white is now forced to move the rook, and this costs precious time, because after, and also there is no more perpetual, because after taking on g5, rook goes. Black has now crucial move rook f5, because black is now controlling f-file, and this drawing mechanism or perpetual this drawing mechanism does not exist any longer, and now white is completely lost. He's just a piece down, check, and rook comes back, very important. As long as white is controlling the square, there, f7 square, there is no drawing mechanism. Now probably white will try to give check and to go with rook to c7 to create drawing mechanism this way, but I cannot believe it would ever work. Yeah, black has to be a little bit careful, but end result would not, because it is just a full piece. Yeah, now bishop is out and now the game is finished. I think that white should just resign. Pawn is coming, but okay, it is a full piece. White is having a very good fighting spirit in this game, but it is not going to help. It is simply not going to help. So Areshenko is going to win and to get back into fight. Okay, Lalit won, Salem won. Okay, maybe interesting for UAE chess followers is that Ahmed Farid, the best placed UAE player after Salem in this tournament, he lost today. Though as far as I know, he had a better game. Let's see this game quickly. Because some position which I saw, this is a known line which is of Spanish, which is supposed to be better for white. Because white is a4 is a good move because it was to damage black pawn structure. White is having a good pawn structure. Okay, black will jump knight b4, he gets some chances. Okay. Knight d2. This is interesting position. Bishop e3, knight d5. The black wants to take white bishop pair. Now bishop takes c4 is a threat, and probably black b3 pawn is going to become weak. White plays f6 in order to work out his bishop. Yes, and this is probably a blunder. Maybe not a blunder, but I don't like it. I would have preferred, let's say, a move like h3. Much safer to have this bishop being defended. I do not see any benefit to leave it being attacked. Because now, unfortunately, bishop c5 is a forced move. And there will be some problems. b4, bishop d4, okay, some tactics. Actually, very well played by, yes, but these tactics would have never happened if white pawn had stayed on f2. All this trouble came because he pushed this stupid pawn to f3. Yes, here he had to play move h3. So now, black managed to create tactics, excellent tactics, because knight also cannot jump because of rook d4, bishop d4 check and taking, knight cannot jump because of, knight cannot jump because of primitive moves like even bishop d5 check, bishop d4 check. So this f3 was a horrible move. So b4 needs to be played now, and now this check is coming, so white cannot take, because rook takes and there is a piece, there is a pin. So king f1, but now, for example, rook c3 can be played, because now the knight is pinned. No, white plays a bit different, black plays a bit different, he takes, and now probably takes with rook. Yes, because now there is a pin, impossible to get out of pin, everything is hanging and falling, and probably black is going to resign. Yes, now there is a pin. Yeah, black lost a piece, white lost a piece and resigned, but all the troubles started when white voluntarily played move f3, in order to have his bishop attacked and in order to voluntarily open this a7 g1 diagonal route to his own king. This is a pity because it has been extremely successful tournament for Ahmed Farid so far, so we hope this doesn't discourage him. Let's see if we have any more decisions. Not in the important games. Okay, let's get back to Kuzubov game, because I was predicting that he would get mated. Let's see if I was right. Moment, I need to check it up. I need to download a new file to figure this out. Okay, Kuzubov game. Let's see. Oh, he managed to. He's trying to create some tactical mess with his last move, because now he wants to find a trick, though I don't know if even this trick would work. Takes, I take, and it doesn't work. Queen check, I move my queen to b2. And what else? Because if pawn takes, then task is not so difficult. Then I can take on then I can take on f6, and I will be full exchange up in the ending. So no, it seems like no, he's not going to get mated, but he would lose the game due to lack of material, due to material losses. King b takes a3, he would probably win. Let's see some other games. Okay, Fimenko, Rakhmanov, we have lost this transmission. Horvat Petrosyan, we also lost transmission. And Gupta, there was this rook ending, which was not clear to me. At least I didn't know what is going on. Can Gupta really win this pawn up rook ending? Let's see how far are they progressing. So, okay. So Gupta decided to take on g5, takes. Well, he has to, if white wants to win this game, he cannot win it without king. So this king would have to run to queenside. While king is running to queenside, white is probably going to lose some pawns on the king side. And somehow it is important that I think that ideal situation for white is somehow, I don't know, if he would run and have pawns on g4 and e4, so that f5 is difficult move for black to push. Let's see whether Gupta would manage something like this. He plays king e4 immediately. But moment, why did black do this? Maybe king f6 would have been played, or even f5. Because now this is tricky. This allows king to run. I think that no, I think that black is going to lose this now. f4, I think, or f3. Yeah, because now king is going to run for a long time without losing any pawns. This doesn't help. King d4, I think, or g4. No, king d4, I think. g4, yes, okay. f5, well, it doesn't matter. I can move my king to d4 if I want to. Yes. e5. Okay. e5. Okay, if I take, there will be check. Will move, take. I don't know if I can move king d5. I think that I can move king d5 maybe. And then I would have check and I would create my pawns. Let's see, what did he play? Check, e5. Okay, do I have here maybe game of because I think king d5 is a very interesting move. Because if rook takes, I will give a check. Maybe king here. And draw anyway, because I cannot enter with the king. I cannot enter with the king, so this is a... Let me see if I have a game of Gupta. If he made any moves. Okay, Gupta is making a draw. Let's see if I can get this. Okay, meanwhile Kuzubov has lost, like I have predicted. Pashikian has made the draw, there was this move repetition. And in Gupta's case, now some position is drawn, but let's see after e5 what happened. He played indeed move king d5, what I suggested, but it's a draw I think, because rook e3, rook check and king to f7, rook e3 and king f7. This is a problem for Gupta in this position. Because if king would be on g7, then king from d5 would have a passage to e6, and then white will be able to win. Now it's a draw. There is nothing to be done because it is impossible to improve the position. And now black has his own pawn to run. And the only way for white to now continue would be to actually give his a pawn. And now we have position which is theoretical draw. It is impossible to win this position. Now the only way for Gupta to try to press this position is to play move rook e2 in order on check to move rook to e6, because then this would be beginner's mistake, rook e6, f e6, because black would lose the pawn ending. But nevertheless, this game would continue probably for a while, or maybe not even continue, but it will be a draw. I mean, black is not going to lose this position. Let me see, they played some more moves. Yes, rook e2 happened indeed. Rook a6 check, rook e6. Moment, maybe it didn't happen. Moment, I have to see it. Yes, rook e2 happened. Rook a7, giving checks to the king. Rook e6. Rook f7 check, I think. Yes, rook f7 check. King g5. I think they will agree to a draw any moment. Rook check. Rook g6. And now probably rook a7. Yeah, rook a7. It is a dead draw. Because black is going to bring his king to f7 and there is no progress in the position. So I think they are going to agree to a draw any moment. Okay, if Imenko Rakhmanov and Horvat Petrosyan, we don't have a transmission, and all the other games are finished, I would just read the top results. Volkov Krivoruchko draw, Kartikyan Kuzuba 1-0, win by white. Yefimenko Rakhmanov and Horvat Petrosyan, we don't have transmissions, so I don't know. We did Gopal draw. Gupta Paligras is going to be a draw any moment. Abbasov Pashikian draw. Ganguly, what? Ganguly 0-1? Lost? How can he lose? He was a pawn up for nothing. No, this is impossible. No, there is something wrong. Moment. It states 0-1, but this is impossible. Moment. Kangula 0-1. No. This cannot be. Let me try to see it here. I do not understand because maybe he lost on. I don't understand this because maybe he lost on time. Because I see that on there is something wrong with the transmission, or white lost in time, which would be impossible to believe in this kind of position. And the rest of the games, Nevera Burmakin draw, Bahara Yurachescu draw, Isotescu beat Grover, Wang won against Xian, Aleshenko won, indeed, the white has resigned, Salem beat Berescu, and Lalit also won, and white had won against Nesarev. So those were the results of today. Situation is heating up. It is interesting that for the tournament, two developments. Number one is that development number one is that Wang Kao is back in the tournament, and for local fans, also interesting that naturally that Salem with his win is also back in a fight for the top places. We have 3 rounds to go. The round is tomorrow at 6 p.m. UAE time, 4 p.m. Central European time, and the commentary is going to continue tomorrow. I see you tomorrow. Thank you for your time and attention. Good night.